Hi everyone, it's Sunday, May 16th, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. So last week was pretty uneventful in the global hide market, and in some regions that can be a good thing, and in others it's a bad sign. So let's take a closer look at what happened last week. In Europe, editor Andrea Guolo says that the situation there is increasingly difficult because of the lack of offerings, and some sellers are pretty much out of stock. Anything more that comes onto the market is likely going to be at higher prices. In the UK, Andrea reports that slaughter is a bit higher and that a decent amount of 36 plus was offered. That said, though, the asking price might have been £1.35 in sterling per kilo, but sales were actually concluded at £1.30 and £1.25, the higher price being for the better lots. In Ireland, the price is the same, but the offerings were fewer. With regard to bulls, Andrea says that the situation is very tense with little supply coming from Germany. The lack of offers is really a concern for the rest of the month, and buyers are watching the market carefully. Southern German bulls were steady last week, though, at €1.85 per kilo, while some French hides sagged a bit, and that was largely because of the tanneries not purchasing. The European cow market saw little change during the week, and there were a few offers from Germany for cows as well. In the veal skin market, tanners are busy, and especially for the luxury market, so of course this means that sellers generally have the upper hand for veal skins. In his analysis this week, Andrea talks about why tanners have stopped purchasing in many cases and how this is affecting the various hides and skins. And he also discusses the upward price trend and what that likely means in Europe. Looking at the U.S., the situation between buyers and sellers did not change much in the steer sector. Sellers continue to insist that prices are steady, but we'd say that most selections are a little soft, as evidenced in our price charts this week. That said, some selections are indeed steady because of tight supply, and Texas is one of those. Seasonal weights of 64-66 pounds are still at $43 to $44, with an unconfirmed sale noted last week at $45. We want to note the cow market, which did see lower prices this week. Most sellers say this has helped form a new foundation, and fortunately the decline was not as much as some had expected. So they're expecting more buyers in the market soon. Export sales were higher by 45% at 451,200, which is certainly higher than last week, but still not great. Combined shipments were also up at 568,700, which is 16% over last week. Slaughter through Saturday, May 15th was 640,000, which is just 2,000 head higher than the previous week. Turning to South America, editor Ronald Guiel reports that thankfully raw material was stable again last week, and it sold at $3.37 per kilo. Sellers are still holding TR1 prices steady at $1.15 per square foot. But that said, there's a lot of price pressure because of the raw material levels, and there's no room for negotiation. In other news from Brazil, the country's April hide and leather exports were up 9% over March. Compared to April 2020, the exports are startlingly higher, but then remember there's a low basis for comparison. April exports were up by 74.5% in value, 30% in area, and a little over 21% by weight. April footwear exports from Brazil are also dramatically higher than last year, and revenue was 115% more than the same month of 2020. From elsewhere in Latin America, Argentine slaughter continues to decline. Chile's footwear prices dropped a little more than 2%. Colombia's Quiros Vélez is betting on a new sustainability strategy. Mexico has a new online platform to boost footwear from Guanajuato, and Uruguayan leather exports are improving. So that's all we have for this week, and until next week, good night from HideNet.